to the East Coast time zone. Well, one of the teams in the Central. We're going to start with the Commanders at 6.5 wins. The Washington Commanders, Matt. How you feeling about that over-under total?
I mean, I'm going under on this. Like, and we kind of
should be crazy here, but keep going.
I mean, 6.5 is a lot for this team. We had a long discussion about the Commanders a little bit during our pre-pro meeting, and we can get into some of that here. But I don't even like. Let me just put the offense aside for a second, because that's a whole can of worms to unpack.
There's a lot. That's yeah.
Dan Quinn's. I thought it did a great job in Dallas as a defensive coordinator. Although it kind of petered out at the end. He's one of those guys similar to the McVay thing, where the first few weeks and months of his reign in Dallas as the DC, you're like, oh, he's not just doing the same old stuff. He's really mixing it up, and that was exciting to see. They play a lot of man coverage. They rush the hell out of the quarterback, and there are some guys on this defensive depth chart. Like, I'm interested to see what they do with Jeremy Chin. I'm interested to see what they do with Frankie Louvu. Weirdly enough, two guys played for the Carolina Panthers. Sainer still, the nickelback. I think he's a really interesting player.
Yeah.
But then you look at some of the other spots here, and like, we're starting Bobby Wagner in the year 2024, just no doubt about it. We're Cleveland Farrell's one of our best edge players. We're doing well, Dan Quinn's here, so we got to have the token Dante Fowler spot.
Yes. He's the one that got away from him, because they drafted Vic Beasley that year, and Fowler went 3. And I think ever since then, he's like, that's my guy. I gotta have Fowler.
And he's had some good play out of Fowler before. Fine, so yes. Yeah, it's fine. But there's just spots like that on the defense that I don't think this is going to be an above average unit this year. And like I said, the offense I'll throw the offense to you, because that's its whole other can of worms here.
Oh man, I'm still, the defense is really the biggest concern for me, because everything you just laid out, the Wagner stuff, the back end, they have good D tackles, but other than that, it's like, okay. And I just watched their backups play, and they're making mistakes left and right. I'm like, oh boy, this could be interesting. Offensively, this is where all the kind of concerns lie. As we look at other teams with rookie quarterbacks, say one in New England, there's been much made about the offensive line in New England. Apparently, everybody knows that every starter in New England, everyone says their offensive line. No one can name a single name for any of those guys, by the way, which I just keep thinking, they suck. All right, who sucks? All right, okay. Then I go to Washington's line, and we feel better. Why? Yeah. Like, Andrews is better than Biotish to me. Biotish is a nice, fine starting center. Fine. Everybody, Andrew Wiley, fine. Everybody else is kind of a net negative, average at best. And usually, okay.
And Cosme's like, okay. He's okay.
It's a bunch of okay to below average, but no, like, even with the 49ers line, that's more same thing. They still have Trent Williams generally, who's all world. They have one guy that you can trust on. Giants offensive line. At least you have Andrew Thomas out there at left side. Other poor offensive lines where it's like, I look at this. I look at that. They have a quarterback that, at a historic rate was taking sacks in college. Yes, he got a little better at it by the end, but still was taking a lot of sacks with pressure to sacks. I think, yes, I'm worried about Cliff Kingsbury, the offensive coordinator, in the sense that he's not, when he was the calling plays in Arizona, he was very poor at adjusting. If something wasn't the NFL is all about adjustments. This wasn't working for us. We thought it would. Now it doesn't. Throw it out. This wasn't working, or we didn't think it would work. Now it is, because they're doing this. Now we got to run it more. He just kind of goes, oh, that's not working. Well, let me try it again. That's not working. Like, he wastes a lot of ball plays. And he's actually talked about this, how in college that he goes, we have more plays that we can waste to kind of get it out there and see what they're doing. You only got 55, 62 plays in the NFL. I'm terrified that he doesn't know how to mitigate that line, that it's going to be a lot of quick game. There's going to be some movement stuff. I think the run game is actually going to be decent, but the passing game is not, creative enough, not expansive enough to, I think, will compensate for that. Where I think is against certain teams, say week 1 against Todd Bowles and the Bucks, it could be a little ugly. It could be a lot of blitzing. It could be not great answers against blitzes, because that's just what this offense is. But the fact that they might show that on tape is really scary. So, and also, I like Terry McLaurin. But again, he's not a tier 1 guy to me. I think we've talked about this several times. how much Brown stock do you own? I still got a couple shares, but
yeah,
but he's barely been able to
that.
see the field so far in his career. He's your outside receiver. They have Zacchaeus. Zacchaeus for me is like a meme, but he's like a receiver 4. Like he's a good receiver 4. Now
you might be there too. They were talking him up like before they traded Jahan Dotson. And look, I know that I like Jahan Dotson. I liked him a lot as a prospect. I thought he had a good rookie year. He took a little bit of a step back last season, but I think was better on film than the stats show, which it's not saying much because the per route per
it was awful,
snap,
right? Was it like 1.1 or something like that?
It was like outrageously bad. But I still think he'll be I think he'd be like a functional NFL player and like a good receiver. You're just not in a position to be like trading that guy inside the division. I don't care what you've seen in practice or maybe unless he's like a complete nightmare behind the scenes. I thought that trade was crazy. And I understand I'm like a big fan of the player and, more than he's shown so far, but still like, McLaurin, I think was at times like a top 10 receiver in the league and knocking on that door of maybe being a tier 1 player. But I think he took a step back last season, and that is concerning. I mean, look, I love Terry McLaurin. I hope he has that dynamic season that he should at some point, but he is a sneaky older player, and the rest of this depth chart is like they took Luke McCaffrey with the 3rd round pick. I thought that was crazy high for insane. Somebody I was tweeting back and forth with somebody today. Like, could Luke McCaffrey be the next like Julian Edelman, like a converted to wide receiver? And I'm like, well, number one, that'd be a hell of an outcome.
Why did they compare those two? And not,
I mean, to be generous, position convert, developmental guy,
or Antoine Randall L.
I don't know. Good question. Can't quite put my finger on it, but I mean, with McCaffrey, like, maybe he was, but Julian Edelman was like a 7th round pick, right? Yeah. McCaffrey was end of the 3rd round, and he might not even be one of their top 3 guys to start the season, and you needed immediate impact. And I just am so worried about this, the just on paper roster for Jayden Daniels. And then you bring up the Kingsbury thing. This is from Josh Norris. Jayden Daniels has time to throw on 15 preseason dropbacks, 1.91 seconds. Quickest in the NFL last year, 2.36 seconds. Daniels air yards per attempt, 5.5. Shortest in the NFL last season, 5.7. It's preseason. I get it. But if we get something like that. That's what
he did in Arizona.
That's the horizontal raid. It's the horizontal raid. We're back again here in Washington. So 6.5. I'm clearly under 6.5.
I'm clearly under. I am too. What disappointed me the most, I know it's preseason, and I know Washington fans, I've seen you guys kind of going like, well, it's preseason. They're not showing anything. This is the exact same offense Cliff Kingsbury ran in Arizona. Same concepts. It's all 3x1. If you saw those stop routes and hitch routes to Terry and Diami Brown when Jayden Daniels was in there, it's because that's how this offense works. It's a 3-man concept on one side and then ISO ball on the other side. It's impossible. It really is. I'm firm saying this. Impossible to win consistently unless you have an all-time receiver on the outside to win ISO ball all the time. DeAndre Hopkins worked a decent amount. Very good receiver, potentially Hall of Famer. But then if I have Randy Moss, Terry, good. I'm not going to say he's going to win 90% of the time. He can win probably 60% of the time, 70%. Okay. All right. Diami Brown, probably more 50-50 if at best. And they're also doing that. It's not just Terry going to be doing it because they're doing the left-right thing where Terry is the receiver 100% of the time on the left side. Diami's the 100% of the time on the right side. That to me is just, again, it's Cliff not learning. If you're going to this is what happened at the end in Arizona. He became so predictable that defenses were able to just tee off on everything. So much quick game, ice ball on the outside. I do think Daniels is going to run it well. It's just that type of offense, that type of flow, it's not my favorite. Too much horizontal stuff like you mentioned too. And they're also running a ton of 10 personnel, meaning 4 wide receivers, and they're getting rid of receivers. And they have dirty work guys where I'm like, the run games could be cool, but I don't know if you can build a receiver room out of Zacchaeus and Diami Brown and all these guys. And they traded for Zach Brown. And so Zach Brown. Noah Brown. we're halfway through. So forgive me for messing up Brown first names. All right, but I think we are both on the under 6.5 wins for the Commanders. It just feels a little empty still. Next up, we have the Giants, also at 6.5 wins. We haven't really talked much New York Giants, probably because offensively there's not much to talk about. But what we got here? What we got with the Giants, Matt? How are you feeling about them?
Yeah, I think this defensive line is good enough to be the identity of this team, and to really make them a potential surprise unit. Throwing Brian Burns on there is just so cool.
You're singing to me right now, Matt. Just keep going.
I just think Brian Burns, like next to Dexter Lawrence, is pretty freaking sweet, man. Dexter Lawrence he's a treat to watch. Like when I'm again not watching receivers, I'm just watching like film. I think he's one of the most enjoyable defensive players. Like a unique guy that's built like a nose, but can truly disrupt the pocket. I mean, he's gonna ruin your Sam Darnold stocks before they even can invest, like in week one.
It's like watching I don't want to say Wemby, but it's like watching a 7'2" guy shoot threes. Like where you're just like, what the hell? Like, and that's Dexter Lawrence. It's like, you're a 340-pound nose tackle. What pass rush move did you just use? Like, what was that? Like, you're just not expecting that type play style out of that type of body build. But continue with your Giants defensive love.
and I think that again, him and Burns working together is really cool, because like Kayvon Thibodeau is a good player. I think he's gotten a little overhyped because he's a big personality. He plays in New York, but he's a good player. So getting all these guys working in tandem, I really do think can be just a identity bringer to not just the defense, but really the entire team. But they're going to need to be, because I'm not really that optimistic about much else on this team. I want to start off positive here because, I mean, the rest of the defense, I think we'll see. I kind of like Shane Bowen as an underrated defensive coordinator. I thought that was an interesting hire, and he's going to flip things almost completely from what Wink Martindale is doing. So that'll be interesting as we're transitioning there. Like overall, I do think the defense can be a pretty solid unit. I mean, I know Malik Neighbors is Twitter's favorite receiver at this point, but God almighty, man, this is not a good offensive depth chart. And we know what Daniel Jones is. I just think they got away with so much smoke and mirrors in that 2022 season. Not a lot of like true, real drop back stuff, a lot of schemey things from a receiver perspective. And look, you can put Malik Neighbors into what I said about Neighbors when he was drafted by the Giants is that he was uniquely skilled among the top three guys to not thrive in this landing spot, but survive this landing spot. I still think that I still think that is true. But then
God.
if we're doing all this stuff with Malik Neighbors to get him free, to get Daniel Jones layups, we're just doing like Darius Slayton again, and Jalen Hyatt is outside receivers. Like Wan'Dale Robinson is a gadget receiver. So I started positive talking about that defensive line because I really get stuck on where to go with the rest of the roster.
Man, you took my flow of argument here because that's where I'm at with it. I really do like this defense, and the preseason hasn't slowed down my optimism about it because, everything you said, I think the defensive front is one of the better ones in football. They're going to be impossible to run against. Like, that's the misconception with Burns. He's not just a pass rusher. He actually is pretty good against the run. Like, he'll set the edge. He'll get some TFLs in there. Lawrence. But then the other guys that they have, Nunez Roches is just a big, beefy space eater. Even the linebackers, Okereke and stuff, he's pretty good against the run. Properly rated. Some people are trying to make him out that he's underrated. He's properly rated. He's like a nice tier 2 linebacker. But then the DBs are young. And that is scary, whatever you say. They might have 2 rookie starting DBs. Yeah, that's a little scary. Deonte Banks, I do think, is a star down the road. And they're doing some cool stuff. Yeah, he's a good player. Drew Phillips, they have in the slot. He's really dynamic. Landed perfect landing spot here. I like Tyler Nubin. He's showed up a lot in the preseason as well. Glad you brought up Bowen as a defense coordinator because he's doing cool stuff, like as far as scheme wise, doing a lot of cool stuff with the DBs. So that's where my optimism with the Giants lie. But when we did our top 10 offenses thing, we did a thing for social media about our 32nd ranked offense, and I had the Giants. I can't get over the top where I'm like, well, this will do this for this, where they're not going to be terrible. And I hate to sound like that day one, but I knew who the quarterbacks are. And if you go, we can go to Drew Lock. Drew Lock in the preseason? It's not, that guy's gotten worse. He's gotten worse since he was in Denver.
Just remember that Eagles game that he filled in for last year, and him and Gino are doing the thing to each other.
Oh my God.
Yeah, if you watch Drew Lock any other time in his NFL career, not fun.
They had the first preseason game, so they, like 3 of the first 5 plays, you could tell they were trying to get Neighbors like a bomb to like hype up the crowd in New York. And Locke messed up a read on the first play where he checked into a pass when he should have checked into a run. Second place, he doesn't even look in the right direction. The third one, he looks at him and then just goes, and then takes a sack, or like he scrambles out and like something happens. And I could tell, I'm probably Daboll's like, I tried. Like, I'm trying, guys. Like, I'm trying to shoot some fireworks here, but I got locked pouring water on all my fuses right now. So I
saw you tweet out that Neighbors threw his hand up like on his first NFL snap, like, hey, I'm open.
So that play is hilarious. And this is Drew Lock in a nutshell. I've always said that when I was watching the Broncos, when Lock was starter there, I could tell he didn't know the play call because he would be looking at the isolated receiver every time, meaning to me that they called the play call, I'll just make up a term, but like sword. And then they say like X dagger. And he would just go, oh, I heard my call, X dagger. So he'd drop back and look over at the X because he was like, I know what route that guy's running because I just said, I don't know what the other concept I just ran. And that first play against with the Giants, they run it's like a run pass check. It's a safe play. That's why they ran it. If it's a too high soft look, you just pound the rock. If it's single high, we got go balls to both of our outside guys or stop routes, whatever you want to tag it. 2-man route. So you better be right with the play call, like the play check. Should be nice and easy. They give it to rookie quarterbacks. I could run it right now without studying anything and get it right. And Drew Lock messes it up on the first play of preseason. No, so there it is. There we go. Missed watching you, buddy.
Neighbors after the game. I saw this from which I remember like right as I was about to get on the plane to go to the Fantasy Football Expo. I saw that that was the day after that game. So in the morning at the airport, I see headline from Pro Football Talk: Malik Neighbors. I got open, but everything has to go my way to get the ball, which could certainly be the slogan for a certain website I know. But also, I feel like Malik Neighbors going to be saying that a lot this year. So it's good that he's getting his practice into the preseason.
Also leads to my great example of my argument about offensive line over receivers for premium position. But anyways, did we say over under? I don't know. I'm going to go under.
I don't know either. I'm going to go under as well, just because.
But Giants fans, I do like the defense. I will say
that. Same. Yeah. We started off, we eased into it. We let them down easy.
Some of the most optimistic takes I've had on the show, I've been on teams I'm picking unders on because Vegas is just making me do it. All right. Next one up, getting to the usual top two of the NFC East, we have the Cowboys at 9.5 wins. Oh yeah, Matt. What do you got about Big D right now? Can you get it in 5 minutes? Everything that's happened in Dallas the last 6-7 months, and make it a succinct way to make you feel about the 2024 season.
I mean, I could be succinct here and say that I really, 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 really want to go under because I'm not buying a lot of what's going on in Dallas right now. None of us picked them as a top 10 offense in our top 10 offenses show, and I was shocked that Dallas fans were so pissed about it because
furious.
Did we not just spend like 4 months talking about how this team didn't get better at all? And then it's they've been a top 10 offense for the last like 3 years.
Points to score in 2022.
Yeah. Some of the players that were playing for that team this year. This year, we're just like, oh no, Jalen Tolbert's going to break out. And by the way, I talk about some stocks. I have sneaky hit under the couch cushions. Like,
really? From the South Alabama days?
Yeah. I thought that film was pretty interesting, but it was South Alabama. You got to always.
It was like the same thing. It was like slot vertical routes, and he was like just dunking on guys, right? Like down the field. That's what I remember anyways, watching that South Alabama film.
Yeah, I thought he was like an interesting 4th rounder, and they took him in the 3rd round, and then he, hasn't done anything really to the NFL in his NFL career at this point. Obviously was a big flop as a rookie for a team that needed some receiver help. So I don't know. We'll see. But like that's the stuff they're selling you. The 2018 backfield of Dalvin Cook and Zeke and with Rico Dowell and Deuce Vaughn is still on like that's going to carry the day. So I really, really want to go under here. But I think 9.5 is a little like I think they can win 10 games and be mildly disappointing. But I don't know. I can't read this one here to go over under because I don't feel good about this team. I feel like they are going to take a step back, but I also struggle getting them like as long as Dak and CeeDee Lamb are healthy, I struggled to get them to 9 or 8 wins or something like that.
The Tyler Guyton not looking like a total project at left tackle is doing a lot for me because I was a little lower on him in the draft. Like I totally understand why someone would take a swing on him in the first round because he had traits and everything. But he was the true, like, oh, that's more of a project as opposed to a guy. It's like, oh, he has traits we can work with. I think there's just small differences. Maybe it's just my brain here. But I never played left side, but it had lower body kind of stuff where he was, his anchor wasn't good. So I was like, all right, this guy down the road could be some stuff because he's long and athletic. He can move like very few guys can. And then they're plopping him day one left side. Yeah, not making a top 10 offense with Tyler Guyton starting at left tackle and whoever starting at center. Preseason happens. Guyton looks so much further along. The center, Cooper Beebe, that is playing in there, looks really good. And just mentally too. I've heard he's a smart guy, but he was handling it really well. Dak is going to do a lot to help him. That's what helps when you have a quarterback like Dak that handles so much pre-snap. Can ruin the flow of the offense sometimes, but that's how they're going to run it. That's going to help him out, at least mentally, I think. So it wasn't as big of a blemish as it was for me a month ago, maybe when we did top 10 offenses. I'm still not all the way there because, like you said, the running back room sure. That's all I just keep saying. I just keep looking at the running backs, just like, sure. Right, yeah, sure. Jake Ferguson, good player. CeeDee Lamb, love CeeDee Lamb. Brandon Cooks is just another year older though. And then it's just all these in-between guys that gets me antsy with this team. On defense, still have Micah Parsons. They still have cool players on the back end. I know Bland got hurt and everything. They have Mike freaking Zimmer. And that's doing a lot for me that I had him as a top 5 defense because Zimmer is a lot more sound as a coach than Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn's, energy, speed. If you make a mistake, do it fast. We'll cover it up with speed. That's how that Cowboys defense kind of felt. Maybe some of the better offenses would get them sometimes because they would just be a little bit more sound. Zimmer's the opposite. It's, you better be freaking here. And you better be here. You're not playing. And then I like that. I kind of like it. They have a cool group of DBs. Zimmer's really good with DBs and using these guys. Remember Harrison Smith stuff, all the things they would do on the back end. I'm really digging the defense, even if I stare at the linebackers and go, oh, shoot, again? Just because I think Zimmer will be better equipped to mitigate that than maybe Quinn was. So I'm really, maybe the top 5 was a little hot on them, a little spicy, but I really do think this defense is still going to be really good, even losing Quinn, because I think Zimmer's that good. I think the blitz packages are going to be insane with Micah Parsons. So I'm very excited about the D. I've come around on the offense. I ended up being over 9.5 wins. If you ask me that, like them and the Rams kind of switched my brain for me a little bit, where I became a little bit more optimistic. I just trust Dak. I trust CD. Mike McCarthy did a good job last year of adjusting their offense, him and Schottenheimer. One of the most shocking developments of the entire season. If you ask me, that McCarthy and Schottenheimer were innovative offensive play callers. Not on my bingo card. So ended up as the over for me, which is just, did not think I'd be there a month ago. So with Ezekiel Elliott playing running back. All right. Someone that improved at running back in a different way. The last team of the NFC East, the favorites of the NFC East, that is the Philadelphia Eagles, who are at 10.5 wins, according to BetMGM. All right. Cowboys rival. Cowboys are rivals to everyone, but the Eagles. How you feeling about them, Matt?
Yeah, I'm going to go with pretty much similar analysis to why I had them as a top 10 offense, which is I just think this team is too big, too talented to fail. I will go over on 10.5 for them. I know what you're going to say about the coordinator and stuff like that. I'm excited to talk through that. I've actually talked about the Kellen Moore, Jalen Hurts marriage a lot this offseason. But overall, like my analysis is just that I do think this team is too good, too talented to fail. Even defensively, I don't know that just dropping Devin White in here is going to fix your linebacker problems.
Just get him going the right direction at least.
Yeah, right. Just, hey, buddy, this way. But I do think that the defensive, like the secondary evolution, I think is going in the right direction. That will at least be a pretty big difference from what we saw last year. So that, and just again, talent on offense, I'll go over here.
I actually am going over because everything you said. I don't view, it's weird. I think this team can win 11 games, maybe even 12. I also think that they can maybe win a playoff game, but I don't view them as a true contender. And it's just kind of this weird, I just can't get all the way there because I think they're, again, like, it's going to be better feelings than last year. I think that's easy to say, even though they're already having a source off in Philadelphia now.
That's another thing that's hard for me to get over is that, like, before the games even start, we're already starting to, put our excuses
it's not my fault.
there.
already getting it's him.
No. Yeah, the blame game. We're playing the blame game. Frank Schwab said on my pod that this is a team that could either win the Super Bowl or fire its head coach by Thanksgiving, and you wouldn't be surprised either way. And I think that's like why it's hard to say they're a true contender. But again, I'm just generally optimistic because of the players.
That's it. I wanted to be like, oh yeah, they're going to blow up this year. I just don't think they can. Just what you said. Even if the Jason Kelsey, losing him, especially the mental side, I'm fascinated by. They still have Jeff Stoutland, the offensive line coach. They still have Jordan Mailata. They still have Landon Dickerson. They still have freaking Landon. I almost call him Landon Jones. That was his quarterback. Lane Johnson, but Landry Jones, if you remember
Landry Jones. What a pull.
Oh my God. I don't know why Lane Johnson became Landry Jones. Oklahoma, I guess, maybe. Yeah. But my brain just did that. But it's that offense is going to score points. Doesn't matter who's calling plays. It's just they have too much talent. They had Saquon, who's a little boom busty, but the thing is, it's Saquon. He's an improvement of who they had. Kind of weird that they're bringing up him receiving the ball a lot. Jalen Hurts never throws to his running backs.
Off-season thing.
Off-season chat, right?
Devon Achan's going to line up at wide receiver for the Miami Dolphins.
Hey, did you hear Kyle Pitts is lining up a receiver this year? He's never done it in his career. He's lining up a receiver this year.
Tony Pollard lining up in the slot for the 2023 Dallas Cowboys. That was
God, awesome. It's the best. Oh yeah, everybody's a Slash now. The real Slash is Hayward's little brother in Pittsburgh. He plays running back, fullback, tailback. He plays everything.
Again, Arthur Smith writing that down right now. Like, how can I get this guy 4 touchdowns to drive like fantasy people crazy?
Arthur trotted out.
Darnell Washington.
Arthur trotted out Najee Harris and 3 tight ends weighing over 260 pounds and George Pickens. And I was like, I'm back, baby.
Football.
Holy ball, let's do this. But everything you said, it's just that this offense is too good. They actually have Bryce Huff as opposed to Hassan Reddick, who's just hanging out with the Jets right now. Ask Charles what this fine money's at, because Charles is keeping like day-to-day hourly tabs on it. I just think they improved. It can't be worse than they did last time. I still have issues with the spine a little bit, but I had issues with it last year, and I thought it was worse last year, and they still won double-digit games and almost won their division. So, yeah, I think it's an over. I like the rookies they drafted, DeJean, Quinion Mitchell. Also want to give Milton Williams a shout-out. I haven't given him a shout-out. Milton Williams, defensive lineman, 93. Think he'll break out a little bit for them this year. So, I'm with you on the Eagles. It feels a little bit like a shrug, but I want to see how this offense works with more Cam Jurgens, Jalen Hurts. I have some concerns, but maybe they answer those concerns early and it feels a lot better.